Welcome back to the Tailosive Movie Reviews podcast, not to be confused with any of the other podcasts that we do, you know, the Space Podcast, or the Tech Podcast, or the EV Podcast, or the Talks Podcast. You know, maybe we need to do a food podcast. Maybe we should do...
Well, that'd be fun.
ASMR food. Anyway, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am joined again with the co-host of the Tailosive Movie Reviews podcast, Mr. Model Y Mike himself.
How's it going, everyone?
Oh, I can't answer for them.
We should definitely get sound effects at some point.
Yeah, you know what? I need like one of those DJ boards with like that. Oh yeah. Just get all of the fun sounds.
So Nick, what movie are we talking about this week? Is it Toy Story 2?
No, it's even better than that. It's Star Wars.
Woo! As you can tell by my shirt.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so we are reviewing today the fourth episode, I guess, in the whole entire series, but the first one to ever come out. Star Wars: A New Hope.
I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. Oh, man. So, Star Wars: A New Hope. This is what started it all. Started all of our childhood obsessions with space and the Force and lightsabers and all of that fun stuff. And here we are talking about it. We're not children anymore. Last I checked, Mike and I are not children anymore. So,
I mean, this was before I was born, so
exactly.
I don't know how old you are,
Nick. There's so much childhood nostalgia wrapped up in this that I was kind of worried going into it that I'd be like, oh, this movie's terrible. What's going on here? But it actually was pretty good. So what did you think? Overall, we need to rate the movie. I think we should start rating the movie 1 out of 8, or 1 through 8. That will be our scale, just like the food stuff. Nice and random scale. How would you rate episode 4 out of 8?
1 out of 8. Now, this is just an independent scale of the movies, right? We're not trying to put them in chronological or specific hierarchies.
If it was a great movie,
I would say A New
8,
Hope is definitely...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say A New Hope probably is around like a 6 or a 7 for me. Probably 7, honestly. Okay. I think it's really good. It's a great story that wraps around everything. What do you think?
Rewatching it, I think it's between a 5 and a 6 for me out of 8.
Okay.
So it pretty good. I'd give it, low B, high C range for a movie. But that's when you just view the movie in isolation. When you add in the entire lore and universe that George Lucas and Disney have built up around this one movie, it's easily 8 out of 8 just because there's so much riding on this one movie. And it's kind of funny, each one of the little throwaway lines has probably, in that entire movie, each one of the throwaway lines probably has like a 3,000-word Wikipedia article on it. There's just so many connections with this that everything Star Wars points back to this movie, and it's kind of fun.
There are so many references to Kessel that I found in this. And knowing all the other movies, in which we might cover in the future, like, you kind of get played into Kessel and you find out what Kessel is and where it is. Mm-hmm. But in this, it's just like, oh, we'll be sent to the mines of Kessel. Yep. It's like, okay.
What's that?
So what is this Kessel place? And then the lore builds around it, and you get this crazy idea that Star Wars fans come up with, and then finally they pay service to it and show you Kessel, and it's like, oh, okay. I mean,
this is beautiful.
Cool, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about New Hope. Starts off with that very wonderful, amazing title card of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right?
That, Mike. For me, as a child.
Oh, the Lucasfilm.
No, even before that. It was before Lucasfilm. It depends on what version you're watching. I didn't pull out the old VHSs, and obviously there have been remakes. I own on iTunes the 1998, 2002, whenever that remake was, where George added all the CG animals in the background. But
we'll talk about that too.
But at the beginning of the 1998 remake and the original, which we did have the originals on VHS. I don't know if they're the theatrical releases. They probably weren't. They're probably the 80s VHS versions. But it always started with the 20th Century Fox fanfare. And that fanfare flows so wonderfully into the opening of Star Wars. It's just like a match made in heaven, and I've just associated 20th Century Fox with the beginning of Star Wars. And I know that they do other stuff, but it's hard for me to watch another 20th Century Fox video where they do that without thinking of Star Wars, because it's totally Star Wars in my mind. And that's when it started. As soon as I saw the 20th Century Fox fanfare, I was like, all right, we're in for an OG Star Wars. Here comes the nostalgia train.
Well, I guess to your comfort, I know that I think you canceled your subscription of Disney Plus, but on my end, I watched it on Disney Plus, and it still has the 20th Century Fox logo at the beginning.
Okay.
So it is still there. So it is a nice touch to the old beginnings of Star Wars, and then gets into the title card of a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then trumpets, and then we get the opening crawl of all the words of what's going on, which was, I don't know how mainstream that was back in the day when Star Wars came out, but it definitely made it more iconic with this whole entire series and influenced a lot of other films to do the same with some type of like maybe opening dialogue or some paragraph that you have to read just to watch a movie, which is kind of insane if you think about it.
Read something before I can watch a movie? That is terrible. How dare they?
Yeah. But yeah, no, New Hope, fantastic movie. Still kind of lives up to a lot of the stuff that I remember as a kid, with scenes of Vader coming in and doing his thing, and Luke being the whiny kid he is because he's some moisture farmer's nephew.
I want to go to Tashi Station and pick up some power converters. Ugh, Luke.
No.
Don't pull an Annie on us, please, Luke. Thankfully, he had his whole character arc, so the whiny Luke was like only the first 10 minutes. And then like we had some development, which was good.
Thankfully, yeah.
It would have been bad.
But yeah, the thing starts, I mean, I think something that is definitely to note, I think, this movie came out in the 70s? 60s, 70s?
I believe 71.
Somewhere around there. 71. You could quickly fact check that for me. I don't have anything in front of me besides some notes, and that's it, and a camera and a mic.
Those are important things.
But for the visual effects that they have in this is astounding. With
1977, sorry.
In 1977, the Star Destroyer just coming out, and you see like the beautiful underbelly of it, and then it gets to the back of it, and you see those glowing engines, and it's just beautiful and fantastic.
I will tell you, as a person who has memorized the VHS version of this, the glowing engines did not look that good in the 80s. So something between the 80s, when I have that VHS, and they've done some enhancement. I think they did, for Disney Plus, I think they did a whole nother remake. They redid the Han Solo Guido scene again, and I'm just like, no.
McClunky.
Who came up with McClunky? What?
That scene has been edited probably maybe at least 15 times between 1977 and 2021 now.
I don't understand why.
Yeah, I don't either. Like, what's so important? I mean, I get the whole, like, Han shot first thing. Like, people want that. And I think in regards to the film, I believe Greedo shoots first. But I don't know. We can keep that in the comments.
Please let
you guys
us know
can
in the comments down below exactly how incorrect we are.
Who shot first? Tell me why I'm wrong.
Though,
Greedo shot first.
With Solo being before A New Hope and the chronological sequence, we see Han shoot first, long before we ever saw Guido shoot. So Han definitely shot.
Or Sean shooting first either.
Sean did I say Sean? Han shot first.
I think you said Sean, but that's pretty funny.
Ideas. Han shot first and Sean.
Anyways, a lot happens in this movie.
Yeah.
It starts with kind of a chase of a little Corellian cruiser or Corellian Corvette running away from the Imperial Army, and then down to the planet of Tatooine, and then all the way to, I guess, dark space in the middle of nowhere, then to Alderaan, and then all the way to Yavin 4, I believe.
Yep.
And then back up to the Death Star.
They cover a lot of ground in Star Wars. It's always very impressive how many places they can visit.
I think is what makes it... Yeah, it's what makes it so astounding, because it's like this world away from worlds. Like, it's not Earth, it's Tatooine. Everything's a desert. Like, maybe you've seen a desert, but this whole planet's a desert.
One big desert. Like my...
Yeah.
I was a little upset about the pacing. you mentioned all these different places that we touch in A New Hope, which I think is good because obviously, when you view it in the entirety with the entire franchise around it, A New Hope shines better than ever. But when you look at A New Hope as an individual movie, which is what I was trying to do, kind of put my nostalgia aside a little bit and just kind of look at it more objectively as a movie, I noticed it was kind of a pretty slow movie, and it was pretty typical of 70s movies to be a little bit more slow and not quite so quick-paced. But as a 2021 viewer, I was kind of sitting there a few times, especially on the Death Star during the rescue scene. Like, I get the trash compactor scene is iconic and stuff, but like it doesn't even make any sense. Like, why didn't the stormtroopers I don't know, open the door, like,
or just follow them down or something,
exactly.
or drop something down there?
Okay,
because they're gonna execute the princess already, right? Might as well just throw a thermal detonator or something down there and kaplooey. If it's that indestructible down there, where you can't even like use a bar to stop the compactor from compacting everything.
And I know there are in-universe explanations for it that fans and even Lucasfilm has come up with. Like, the trash compactors had a bunch of different chutes and stuff, and so, it could have changed. And it's just like, I've heard that. Like, okay, guys, at some point you just got to say, it was there, it shouldn't have been there, agree with that, but also, I don't think it should have been there. It's like... And the whole scene where they're trying to get to the Millennium Falcon after they get out of the trash compactor, like, that should have just been a cut. Like, just from trash compactor, walking down a hallway to walking up to the Millennium Falcon. Like, they could have cut a solid 5-10 minutes of that movie out, which is not bad because more Star Wars is always better, in my opinion. But as a film, it felt quite slow-paced, and that is... something I'm not used to as a Marvel type viewer who's like, action, 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 action.
Next thing, get me to the next thing. Another cut, another cut, another cut. Okay. Yeah, the part where Luke and Leia are swinging from one side of the gantry to the other side over the huge pit that goes into nowhere for some reason. The doors opening slowly behind them. The stormtroopers are right there. They could easily just go prone, like basically lay down, shoot their ankles, or even grab them. Instead, they're like, we're going to wait for this door to open very slowly. And then by the time they swing over, like, we can't even get to them, so it's a bummer.
The plot holes in this movie are very many and very obvious. And it's kind of sad because this is what started it all. Oh, well.
Mm-hmm. I also thought something that I wanted to touch on as well is kind of backpedaling towards Tatooine. Ooh. Ben Kenobi's house. Something that maybe I didn't think about as much until this movie, watching it again. It's like, oh, wait, yeah, Ben has a house. He has an antenna on it. He's got a whole bunch of, like, wiring and technology and electronics in there. Like, you'd think a hermit would maybe not want that, or maybe he's, I don't know, like, trying to catch the daily news or something. How else is a hermit going to tweet? I guess so. Yeah, Imperials, know, right?
Can you believe that? Hashtag Imperials suck.
But yeah, it was just something that I didn't really think about, and which, if plans are going correctly, there should be a Kenobi movie coming out later this year, which maybe they'll bring back Ben Kenobi's house. But it was just something that went over my head. I forgot about the whole scene of Luke in there with Ben Kenobi, R2 showing the message, and then the lightsaber reveal and everything. But it was just, I don't know, something that gets skipped over in my mind in the whole Star Wars lore of, oh yeah, Obi-Wan lived on Tatooine in a hut that wasn't too bad, I guess. I don't know. It had a very interesting decorative design.
That didn't stand out to me too much, but I did notice that C-3PO asks to shut down, and he never does that in the rest of the entire franchise. C-3PO never shuts down, and it's obvious what they were thinking. George Lucas back in the day is like, oh, well, they're robots, so they need to shut down, and we don't need them in this scene, so we're just gonna have them sit there. Exactly, perfect.
I'm gonna shut down right now, okay?
Exactly, okay. And it's like in universe that makes zero sense whatsoever, but when you realize that this was the first one and they didn't know what they're doing yet, it does make perfect sense. There's little things like that
Which then begs the question, do these droids get plugged in at night? Like, do they need to get constant power from like some 3-prong plug
USB-A.
or whatever type of plug system do they use? USB-A, that's what they use.
Charges at 5 watts,
Not USB-C.
Not even wireless charging, just USB-A.
No, not even wireless charging. Because I guess that's another question: is like, how do these droids get power? Like, they don't have solar panels on top of them, so do they have like nuclear reactors in them, or maybe I just haven't dove into the lore that much.
No, the whole power density thing with Star Wars has always been really off. Like, that's very consistent across the whole cinematic universe. Power density is just always off. Like a lightsaber, the energy required to create a lightsaber on Earth, people have made plasma torches that are, similar size and similar function as a lightsaber, but they require so much energy that, it's either like a backpack or like the very small ones are like a backpack, and it's like propane and liquid oxygen, and you're just like, and yet all of this is supposed to fit into this little, cell that then projects a beam onto a kyber crystal, and you're just like, yeah, sorry. Even hyperspace and the coaxium that they get in Solo, and I don't know. There's a bunch of different power density imbalances, which is the biggest thing that's stopping us as humanity from exploring other solar systems and other stars, because we don't have enough power in a small enough amount of space.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe those lightsabers have 4680 cells that Elon Musk is making, but then I thought, you know what, maybe there's an Elon Musk a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I wouldn't be mad about that. I would be all in for Elon Musk long, long time ago in a galaxy far away. We just get Elon Wars.
And he does like private companies, and the Jedi Knights are basically a private company, right? Or they're kind of like knights of the government. Mm-hmm. They kind of follow the government, but they have their own thing, so they're kind of private. So maybe Elon could possibly be in Star Wars. Anyways, deviating from that.
He wouldn't be the first person to cross the Star Wars to Marvel chasm.
Yeah, I guess so.
He had that cameo in Iron Man.
But, yeah, maybe we'll talk about that
we should
later
stay on
as
topic.
well.
Star Wars Episode 4. So...
Definitely Star Wars Episode 4.
Crawl, we get the epic shootout inside of the Tantive 4, right? Yeah.
The Tantive 4, the Corellian Corvette, I believe is its technical name.
So,
but we get 3PO and R2 running around. We have rebels running around the hallways and everything. And then we get the great, awesome shot of just like, kind of, I think it's... it's the troopers sitting in the hallway. The music's kind of waiting there, like kind of building some tension, and then the door opens up. You have the stormtroopers storming in. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Stormtroopers storming in.
We just figured it out. That's why they call them stormtroopers. We're so smart.
We're definitely Star Wars fans because we know
everything, right? Oh boy, yeah.
But yeah, and then
so I was going to ask you.
Sorry.
Do you know what the very first sentence spoken in a Star Wars movie was? It's from this movie.
I mean, the one that I remember is C-3PO saying we're doomed.
It is C-3PO, but he's not saying we're doomed. He says, "Did you hear that?"
Okay.
That's the very first. There's the very first line in Star Wars, and then he says, "They shut down the main reactor." Then he says, "We'll be destroyed for sure." Yeah.
We're doomed.
Oh well, but there's just so much iconicness, and something that really struck me, especially on the Tantive 4 and also on the Millennium Falcon, everything felt very real. I think with a lot of more modern movies, obviously a lot of it's CG, some of it is practical, but they're very polished practical pieces, if you know what I mean. Like, they look very organized, they're very aesthetically pleasing, they don't look used, like, even if a prop is supposed to look used, it looks like a used prop, not a used item.
It doesn't look like it's recycled from some other movie. You're like, oh, that was an Aliens.
And so that's what I really loved about the Tantive 4. because when we get to the Princess Leia shots where she's hiding in the back of the Tantive 4, all of the objects around her feel greasy and gritty and grimy and scratched up and kind of pieced together, and it's like that is Star Wars, because Star Wars is real and tactile and it feels like you're there. And just watching those scenes, especially in the Tantive 4, I was like, wow. It just feels so real. Like it has the same amount of imperfections as my AirPods case. It has like some grime and some color distortion on the inside from my earwax, and then like you got the little itsy bitsy scratches all over the case, and it's no longer shiny or smooth. It's kind of like scuffed up, and then you got the little dings from the times it landed on the concrete. It's like, this feels real.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the other movies
Definitely.
that we see recently are all very polished and like Apple 3D renders of AirPods, when like this is Star Wars,
They look
where
fake.
like it feels real. You can feel it. There's some warmth to it.
Yeah, I love that attention to detail that Lucas gives with this movie, where like something looks like it's been worn in. It's not like, oh, this is the very newest thing ever that just came off the line. It's like, no, this thing's been passed down many times. It's seen a couple battles. Like, it's grimy, it's gross. It looks real. It doesn't look like, I don't know, some design home that you see on the internet. It's like, oh wow, that's very modern. It's very much like a ranch house, kind of like, oh yeah, you can see the wear and tear from the rain hitting the roof or the walls, or maybe there's some water damage as well. A lot of the detail that they put into this movie is fantastic, especially with like the sand crawler. That thing looks like it's been out there for a millennia. It almost
has been, if you look at the lore. Don't know if it's just a millennia, but it was out there before. Interesting.
Before time itself.
After that, we obviously get the famous Princess Leia scene where she's crouching in front of R2, and she then disappears into the darkness behind. Exactly.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Such a good line. Again, another quotable line. Like you said, there's so many lines in this movie that are used throughout film itself. Like, you could find it in shows like, I guess The Big Bang Theory is an easy one because it's all nothing but references. But like other movies and shows call back to A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. These lines that are just very noticeable. Like, any person that you find on the street, you could say, Luke, I'm your father.
Hey.
They're like, hey,
and they'll be like,
why are you saying that line right
and
now?
I'll be like, oh, you don't know how deep it goes. I'm not a nerd.
Or I think it's, no, I'm your father.
I am your father.
But,
that's very true. Now that's a nerd statement. It's not in
that's
this
not
movie.
in this movie, though.
Spoiler!
I think that's a spoiler. I mean, I guess...
Mike, you are spoiling this movie.
I guess what we said in the first podcast.
Everyone is now spoiled, officially.
As we're talking about all the places that we go and all the things that go on, all the characters. Yeah, I guess this is spoiler cast of a 50-year-old movie now, I guess.
You just spoiled it all. No one is going to appreciate this now.
Oh, well, I guess I'll head out now. It was fun,
Well,
Nick.
the show's going to stop then, because we both know I don't talk to myself very well.
No.
I mean, I do talk to myself plenty because I don't have any friends, and I sit there in the dark muttering to myself, but it's not entertaining content, I don't think. After we get that famous scene of Princess Leia, we obviously have the biggest mistake in cinematic history. The biggest, bar none. If this one guy in this one movie would have done one thing different, the entire 12 movie plus TV show franchise would not exist. Are you ready for it? It was the officer who, as C-3PO and R2-D2 were in the escape pod going out of the Tantive 4, the officer says, there's no life forms. Hold your fire. What? No! What?
Well, he says, oh no, it's another escape pod.
Okay.
But there's no life forms, so we'll just leave it.
Oh my gosh,
in summary.
Dude!
Which also, he says another escape pod, and I don't remember any other escape pod jettisoning.
But
which
it's just like,
a little bit
really?
confusing as well.
Like, seriously? I don't know much about the military.
In a world full of droids,
if, an escape pod was getting out of leaving a vessel that you were, trying to take. Biggest missed opportunity in the entire franchise. Just guys said fire. And, if there are no life forms, who cares? Just fire. Anyway, poor guy. He had a big decision to make, and he failed big time.
I mean, even so, like, if you're ignoring that there's maybe no droids on the ship, possibly, and there's no other life signs, and this life pod, or this, escape pod's been jettisoned, at least, like, see where it's going or shoot it down or something. Like, if you're thinking, okay, we're following this Corellian Corvette because there's plans that they stole of our super secret weapon star of death, like, you might want to think, okay, maybe they put it on the escape pod and they're taking it down to Tatooine where someone's going to grab it. Like, follow it or something, or just blow it up because you probably have a copy of the plans. I don't think this is the one copy of the Death Star plans. So, yeah, so just blow it up.
Biggest missed opportunity. And then R2-D2 and C-3PO's relationship is very different in this movie than the rest of the Star Wars films.
3PO is dissing on R2 the whole entire
really
movie
change,
until the end.
R2 and 3PO always have this, Nick and Randy back and forth, but sure.
You mean Randy and Nick?
I'll be C-3PO. I'm tall.
Well, I mean, Randy is short.
Maybe it's more fitting than I'd like to admit. But in this movie, 3PO is more assertive. Like, he was the one telling R2, "Come on, R2, we're going." When there was an opening to get onto the Millennium Falcon on the Death Star, and he just seems a lot more assertive in this movie. Where in most of the other movies, he's pretty unsure. He's just like, "Ah,
are we sure we're going in here?"
Which is the
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, especially at the what's it called, the Sandcrawler scene when Luke and Uncle Owen are buying them. And then I forget what R5. The droid is, but it's the red R2 unit that busts R5. R5 busts, and then 3PO is just like, well, hold on, there's a really good one right there. You should get that one. Like, wink, wink. I've been with that one. He's in excellent condition. Like, very assertive rather than, hopefully he picks the R2 unit that I'm friends with. So, yeah, definitely a little bit more assertive. I do love, though, probably one of my favorite lines in this movie that I didn't really pay attention to as a kid, but as an adult, you pick up on some other things. 3PO says to R2, because I think R2 gave him some sass, 3PO's like, "You nearsighted scrap pile," which I thought was hilarious. I think it was when they were parting ways, where R2 went one way and C-3PO went another way in the desert to find civilization or something like that.
Nearsighted scrap pile. Ouch.
Not to you, Nick. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes,
how can I make it up to you?
I
do you want a lightsaber?
That is the lightsabers.
This movie definitely sparked a lot of people's interest in lightsabers, or at least just like some glowing weapon of doom that does everything. You need.
It's a more civilized weapon It's a more something weapon. Yeah, I'm trying to quote
Ewan McGregor.
Not Ewan McGregor. Alec Guinness. It's Allen Guinness. Guinness? Alec Guinness? I think so. Let's see here.
Alec Guinness.
Harrison Ford. Yep.
ALEC, I think.
He is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yep.
Yeah. Sir Alec Guinness. He was knighted by the Queen.
That is pretty
cool. Which I think is really cool as well. Yeah, he's a sir. Or was a sir. He's long since passed, which is quite a bummer. He seemed like a really cool dude, only from this one movie that I've seen of him. So maybe not too much to build off of.
30 other movies, and we only know him from this one thing. That's pretty funny. He was
definitely, but kind of like going back to what you're saying. This movie is definitely more world building than action. Which of course, movies back then were not just action. Things like Alien is very much slow and suspenseful, and you get music going. I'm not too sure if it was also produced or not produced, but scored by Jeff Williams.
Yeah,
but at least with this,
John Williams has scored all of the main 9 franchise movies. Episode 9 was his last.
Yeah, I was just unsure if he did Alien as well. But at least with this, the music is just fantastic.
Don't
and
it
get
just
me
comes in
at
all
these other
times.
You do
not want to hear. I tell people I like weird kinds of music, and one of my favorite genres is score music and film music. And John Williams, top of the echelon, best composer, best conductor ever. I love all of his work. His if I had to describe why I like him so much, it's because his music adds texture to the movie that can't be described visually. There are a lot of times where, the movie crescendos, or the music crescendos right before, something happens. Like, just think of the build-up towards the explosion of the Death Star. Spoilers, they do succeed at the end of this movie in blowing up the Death Star. I know. What? I know.
Oh my goodness. The plans for this super secret Death Star are actually used against the enemy, and they succeed.
Shocking. But, just the way
it's a movie
music, it just blends sometimes, just between... I don't know. I'm not describing it very well. Go listen to the soundtrack yourself. Put yourself in a dark room and...
No, I mean, here's some instances that I noted as well. With 3PO and R2 leaving the Corellian Corvette in the escape pod, there's these beautiful violins playing that you've got the background of space, and you've got the pod drifting towards Tatooine. And it was just beautiful and fantastic. And or even shortly after, when they're in the desert, it's just like there's music with 3PO walking away, and it's giving that sense of expanse, but also kind of like loneliness. And then not just that, but there's also the lack of music in some spots as well. Stuff with R2 in the cavern shortly after, no music in there.
Poor little R2 was so nervous. His little nervous whistles make me almost want to cry every time. She's like, hello? Oh, yes.
And then the light bulb Jawas come and get him. But yeah, the music in this is fantastic. Stuff like they're looking or getting towards the Tusken Raiders. And it's the whole dun 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 dun, dun, and then I can't even describe the instrument that they use. It's almost like like cowbells and drums mixed together for the Tusken Raider music, or at least I think they call them the Sand People in this, but I think also Tusken Raiders.
Interesting. I didn't notice that. You'll have to point that out later.
But
what scene you're specifically talking about, and I'll have to go watch that.
I think it was when they were going to get R2, because R2 left to go to find
what shot or whatever, because I can't think of even the soundtrack that's playing over that. That's how good... When a soundtrack is well designed, you don't notice it until you are just listening to the soundtrack and you're like, this was awesome. It's perfect.
That's what I was focusing on for most of the movie. I was just listening for music in every single scene, and at some scenes it's like, no music. We don't need music here. We've got characters talking, and they're doing enough for the environment that you're immersed in right now. But yeah, of course, the most iconic scene in the whole entire movie is Luke exiting his little hut from his
binary sunset.
Uncle and aunt's place. And then you've got the shot of the binary suns, the twin suns on the horizon, which, if you think about it, would be really bright, honestly.
Something that has always bugged me about all of the Tatooine shots. Obviously, you can't replicate it in a real world, but it just irks me because there should be two shadows, and there aren't. And it just bugs me every time I see it. And I get over it because, Star Wars and nostalgia, but it's like, come on.
Come on, George. Don't you know physics? There's two suns, which means you got two light sources.
So, George, you should put another sun in the sky before you start recording. Obviously.
Yeah, he has enough money at this point, right? So, Skywalker Ranch.
Can we just add another sun up there? Make it really, really big.
I think Japan was actually saying last year or the year before they wanted to launch a big satellite that looked like the moon in the sky. So we were potentially going to get two moons at one point.
Binary moonrise.
It would have been really weird. I don't know. Binary moonrise. I think it was supposed to stay geolocated or orbitally like right above Japan all the time. So that way it was always orbiting.
Geostationary.
I forget the terms off the top of my head. But it was geostationary. Thank you. Geostationary satellite that was supposed to stay up there. Anyways, we're straying from the path again.
This is the way.
But I guess going back in, this is the way. I guess this is the beginning of the way. Very beginning of the way. I mean, we even get Boba Fett. And, I mean, I don't know what. I guess you watched the 1997 version or something like that. But in the 2020 version, I guess they've got Boba Fett in there, which I don't remember Boba Fett being in the first one, but he's there. No, so this is in the added scene, I believe, one of these added scenes that we touched on, where Han is going back to the Falcon, and then Jabba's there, and then there's a very wonderful edit of him walking over Jabba's.
So let me tell you, Jabba, you are just an
they didn't know what Jabba was supposed to look like.
Human being. As he like, it's so bad.
It was really robotic. And then you just have Boba Fett in the background watching, and I'm just like, wait, hold on, why is Boba Fett here? Like, we get that like Jabba's out of his palace, which is really strange, and like, how do you even get to Mos Eisley in the first place, and would he even be welcomed in Mos Eisley because like he's some
that's what Obi-Wan says. Mos Eisley,
but he's there, and apparently
wretched hive of scum and villainy. Thank you.
You got it. Perfect. Are you Obi-Wan Kenobi? Are you going to be in the next Kenobi?
Sick, or you just don't want to do it? Hit me up, Disney. I will do it. I will age myself 50 years and call myself Alec Guinness all day long if you want me to. That's okay.
You have to grow a little bit of a beard.
Mine off every time before I hit record here, so I will just grow the most most beautiful beard ever. So. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I guess one thing since we're talking about Alec Guinness, the first line that Ben Kenobi says in this movie is "Hello there," which I'm pretty sure, of course, like it was just nothing at first, but then of course the prequels made it a thing of Obi-Wan Kenobi saying "Hello there," General Kenobi.
Hello there.
Wrong movie, but yeah, again, just like. More iconic lines like "Hello there" or "Of course I know him, he's me." Things like that. It's just like, wow, yeah, these are very quotable lines. But something I did notice around that time.
Have a cut from the main plot, and we start interacting with some of the Imperials and getting to have the conference room meeting. And this is actually the introduction and the final movie where my very favorite Star Wars character is portrayed by one of my very favorite actors, Peter Cushing, who plays Grand Moff Tarkin. Grand Moff Tarkin, for many reasons, is my absolute favorite villain in all of Star Wars. It's him or Emperor Palpatine. Like, there's a little bit of a competition there. Do it, just because Palpatine has.
Do it.
He's the puppet master of the entire thing. But Peter Cushing is.
He's a bit of a puppet.
If I had to define what an evil like general would be, it would be Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin. You may fire when ready. Like, he's just very like, you may fire when ready. You don't know how difficult I found it signing the order to execute end your life. It's just
he's so arrogant. Like, I forgot how arrogant Tarkin is. At one point, one of the officers are just like, "Hey, we have a escape pod right here." He's like,
moment of triumph.
Why would I leave?
We stand
this
here,
is
but
mine.
My achievements, not yours, mine. Poor director Krennic just got screwed over by him.
So many
spoilers for
oh my goodness. But again, it just shows how villainy Tarkin is. It's not, I mean, Vader shines as the villain because he's this big, dark figure with a red lightsaber that's always coming at you. Tarkin's that one dude in the background who's just like, you're going to die. Like, I'm going to send these people to go kill you. I could care less about whatever you're doing. We're going to take over the galaxy in a few days.
I love that. So, then we got the famous Darth Vader scene. The power to destroy an entire planet is inconsequential next to the power of the Force. Just like, seriously, Vader? Yeah.
You and your failed religion or whatever.
I don't quite remember what that line was.
You and your ancient religion that has died off.
Really, like, they had to build so much world in this movie because he's literally building an entire universe that's completely different from our own. That, like, a lot of these lines kind of come off as heavy-handed because you kind of had to be when you only had 2 hours to fit it all in. But, like, now looking back at it with the whole saga in mind, it's like, really? I'm going to pack all of that meaning into one line? Okay. I mean, it's fine, but it doesn't quite, flow.
It does show some of his powers, though. It demonstrates what Darth Vader can do. He's not just some menacing, robed man in the corner. Like, he will choke you out without even having to touch you. Except, which is kind of weird, because in the very beginning scene, he's choking someone out with his hand. So I guess he was just really angry.
His name David Prowse, I believe, played Vader. He was the physical... Yeah, David Prowse.
Yes. He was the physical guy in there, in which they didn't... I think
he was like a wrestler or something. And, like, he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to lift this guy up.
Something like that.
He was.
And he was originally doing all the voices.
Like,
he was doing all the dialogue and stuff. And I kind of noticed that in one scene. I already knew, but like in one scene, I think it cuts to Tarkin and Vader talking, and Vader ends his sentence, but then physically his body's going like with his hand like pointing at Tarkin or something like that, as if he's talking still. And there's a little bit of that disconnect right there, but voiced by the great James Earl Jones, probably one of the best voice actors in my opinion.
Agreed.
Fantastic voice. A big fan of Halo, kind of like Randy. And he also voices a character in there called the Arbiter. And very fantastic, just like beautiful depth to his voice. It breathes life into these characters that he portrays. And fantastic. Like, couldn't be more of a great voice for this menacing hooded, or not hooded. I keep on saying hooded. I guess I'm thinking of Palpatine. We haven't even seen him in this movie. But yeah, this menacing robotic man who has a red lightsaber and is always coming to get you. Yeah, very, very fantastic. The duality, like, I guess some of the creativeness right there. 2 actors filling the role of this one menacing villain that expands through the 3 movies that he's in, at least. And fantastic. Could not be a better actor.
So now
for
I think
role.
We have visited Mos Eisley, right? Have we visited Mos Eisley in our conversation? Yeah.
I think we're at Mos Eisley at that point. We got people walking in, and we've got, of course, the wonderful man at the bar who's angry at Luke just because Luke exists.
On 12 systems. And Greedo's just like,
good for you.
Excuse me? Hello there.
Hello? Hello there.
General death sentence.
General death sentence.
Pretty much.
And then we get the scene of the lightsaber cutting off the
and then just everyone in the canteen
guy's
just goes
arm.
back to normal. They're just like, that was weird. And the music starts.
I mean, it is Mos Eisley, kind of like what Ben Kenobi said. You will never find a place more filled with scum and villainy or something like that. Like, it's known for being a little bit harsh.
That's
at
pretty
times.
harsh. Like, just getting some guy's arm. Oh, and a lightsaber.
I mean, a lightsaber inside a cantina.
Especially with this expanded universe knowledge, we know that lightsabers are really only Jedi's tools. And at that point, all the Jedis had been dead for 20 years or something like that. And no one bats an eye. And, like, I think...
And no one bats an eye.
The fact that BB-8 in Episode 7 couldn't even go to Maz Kanata's castle without being recognized by 2 different people, you got to say, how did Obi-Wan ever get away with that?
I mean, they left within, I think, what was it, like 10 minutes or 15 minutes? They quickly talked with Han, and then got out of there once the troopers came in.
We got to talk about Han Solo, the debut
Mr.
of one
Solo
of the best
sitting with
characters in the
Greedo.
entire franchise. The one that is the space cowboy himself, the perfection of what Harrison Ford can do on screen. It is glorious. Just watching his kind of cocky, kind of laid back mannerisms, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do 0.5 past light speed. Oh yeah. Give me 10,000 credits," and he's just like,
"We'll give you 17."
Okay. Okay.
I'll
take it. Exactly.
I'll take it, I guess. You got a deal.
That's the word I'm looking for.
So much swag with this character. Like, just sitting in the corner, drinking his drink, owning this part of the Mos Eisley Cantina like it's his own place. Yet he's got
and staring
such
down
a
the troopers
huge debt
as they
in the background.
The troopers like come and Luke and Obi-Wan are already gone, and he's just staring at the troopers like, "What are you looking at?" It's like this guy was literally chased down by Imperials that caused this debt with Jabba. Like he is so much swagger, so much bravery. He's an awesome character. Exactly. He's just
whatever.
Who are you? Exactly.
Who are you? They build him up like that. I found at the very beginning of the movie, he's like, "Oh yeah, he's some very like brave, courageous cowboy who goes by his own rules." And then cut to the scene of him running away from the army of stormtroopers in the Death Star. Like, oh, never mind.
A good number of troopers there. No. Yeah, that does bring us to the Death Star, though. That's no moon. What did you think of the whole bait and switch of their mission? Like poor Han was signing up for a one trip to Alderaan, but he got roped into this whole rebellion thing. Like, oh, poor Han.
Yeah, well, I guess for 17,000 credits, so he didn't really technically lose on the deal. But yeah, I mean, definitely interesting form of events, and again, like you were saying, it's definitely or not really. Well, it's both slow and fast. It's like, okay, we're going to another new location. It's Alderaan, and then we find out Alderaan is asteroids. It's just gone, and then there's this random TIE fighter that they find. They're like, it's just out here. It just got separated from the pack, and it's all alone. Like, okay, weird logic here, but all right. And then they see the moon.
It's no moon.
But it's not a moon. Definitely. And then there's the scene as well around that time of Leia, who is trapped on the Death Star, currently being interrogated by Vader. And they kind of almost, I don't know if Lucas had in his mind that, well, I guess he never really said until like episode 6 that Leia had the Force, or that she was going to be a Jedi. But in this, they make the reference, or at least they note that they tried interrogating her, and it didn't really work, or at least like she had some resistance to it, which I found very interesting. I don't know whether.
Yeah.
I know that was definitely shot in the original movie, but it's kind of like, okay, like, were you planning on either her being Force sensitive, or at least like having the Force, or being a Jedi early on, and then decided against it in the second one?
Very good point.
And then went to the third one.
I will have to think about that. I like it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Definitely. But it was something that I noticed. I was like, interesting. Like, she's showing great resistance against the serum, and it could just be, she's strong against the serum, or the Empire doesn't know how to brew a serum correctly for telling the truth or whatever. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting as well. But then we get to the point of the tractor beam taking in the Falcon, and then the whole again, another plot hole in this thing. Han says that he had to, the debt that he's racked up is because he had to dump a lot of supplies from some of his previous jobs. And yet, when they get to the Death Star, they hide underneath some panels in the Falcon. So it kind of begs the question, why didn't he just hide the supplies that he lost on the previous job?
That's a good question.
In these panels.
Sure Disney is already planning a 2.5-hour blockbuster summer-style movie to describe in every single minute detail how that transaction happened.
I can't wait, honestly. It's a question that
I've had for at least
I guess 20 years now.
So I demand an answer, Lucasfilm. Let's do this. So they decide to leave the Millennium Falcon and adventure around the Death Star, and by happenstance, they come across the princess, the person that they've been looking for, and I think Han. To be fair, R2 does find her.
Well, to be fair, R2 finds her.
Han Solo did not want to join in the pursuit. Han was like, "Oh no, what about my reward? What about my reward?" I know, she's rich. Oh,
she's rich.
I'm sorry, what did you say? She's rich. Oh, okay, yeah. Take my...
I could get more than 7,000 credits up on this job? Okay.
I thought that was pretty funny watching how quickly he flip-flopped as soon as Luke mentioned that she was rich. And how would Luke even know if she's rich? Like, besides the title princess, like, how does he know that she's rich? I guess most princesses are rich, but...
And then also another funny line that's dropped is Luke comes into that room, takes off the stormtrooper helmet because they disguised themselves as stormtroopers when the stormtroopers raided the Falcon and they knocked him out. Luke comes back, takes off the helmet. He's like, I can't see anything in this helmet, which is the most amazing line to explain why stormtroopers are such terrible shots in the whole entire Star Wars universe. They just can't see. Which you could tell on the Tantive 4, because they're like stumbling around, they're brushing up against the walls,
especially on the Death Star when they're running around. When stormtroopers, not Death Troopers, yikes, that's a spoiler for Mando. When stormtroopers are going around the Death Star on the very polished floors, they seem to be slipping quite a bit. Like their shoes must not be made out of rubber. Maybe they're made out of like soft leather or something, like the soles of those actors' feet. And it's just like so funny watching these guys like pretend not to slip, but like they're kind of slipping a little bit on the floor, and you're like.
So two solutions then. Either the Empire has to invest in some rubber shoes for all their troopers, or rubber/carpeted floors on the Death Star.
And that way they can kind of drag their feet, build up a little bit of a static charge, and then go like shock people. That's where they get the term shock trooper.
Imagine the Emperor doing that. No.
Goodbye.
Okay, I'm done. Nope,
it was a nice show. We're done.
Bye, everyone.
Oh boy. Sadness. Okay, so they make it on the Star. They find the princess, and Han has the most awkward conversation through a walkie-talkie radio thing with the supervisor of the cell block. Han's like, "Yeah, everything's fine down here. Don't worry about us. And yeah, we're good. Just a slight weapons malfunction. We're good. We're fine though. Yeah, we're good." And then the guy's like, "Are you sure? We're gonna send down a squad just to make sure." And then Han's like, "No, don't come down here. Huge reactor leak. Very dangerous. Don't come down here." Cause like, "What's your operating number?" Boring conversation anyway. Look, we got company. It's like,
Fantastic. That was a good scene. Yeah. Definitely one of the funniest that can be overlooked, I guess, in this movie. Like, there's a lot of iconic scenes that are carried on through media and stuff, but definitely probably one of the funniest bits in this movie of just that interaction between a officer and then the Death Star crew. Well,
yeah.
Quotes for officer being Han, but yeah.
Then,
definitely. And then also the whole, I have a bad feeling about this as well, shortly after that.
In every Star Wars movie
which is used so many times. It's definitely it's a cult classic for anything as well. Like if it's mentioned in a movie, it's like, hey, they took that from Star Wars or something like that. Or if you even say that, it's like, okay, some nerd here's watched Star Wars and they're quoting Star Wars right now.
I mean, come on, guys.
I guess so.
Oh boy! So we got Princess Leia out of her cell, and she's in the trash compactor with the rest of everybody. And what does Han Solo want to do? Well, what does Han Solo do? He shoots first and asks questions later because he's Han Solo. So he shoots the wall, but they're ray shielded, so it just bounces around about 8 times and tries not to hurt anybody.
Where are you kidding?
Oh boy.
These these walls are ray shielded. That'd be like the thing to do, right? Like if you're in this world with lightsabers and blasters, just
ray shield,
get a ray
trash,
shield
because why
It'll
not?
protect you from everything.
No.
The trash is ray shielded, but
there
our
are shields,
ship,
just
no,
not on the little
no shields on
port
it.
That is important,
no ray shields,
as we'll find out at the end of this movie.
Well, they do say that there is some type of like plasma interface or something like that to where only photon torpedoes can go through it.
Very true.
But still. Yeah, and then we get the wonderful fight scene. Though I think only one lightsaber fight in this movie, which spurs
Mike,
many
fight,
decades of lightsaber
men poking
fights.
at each other with their canes. Yes.
That too. I mean, how old are they at this point?
Have you seen the YouTube
a good amount of years
that,
for at least Ben.
Fight? I think it's just.
Yeah, I forget what they call it. It's
it was like
not deep fake, but
I don't know what the budget was.
Other...
But they like had a whole green screen, like a point key green screen, and actual VFX artists, and like it was an actual production to make this little 4-minute YouTube video where like they play Duel of the Fates, and it's just like, oh, it's a duel, and they're crushing walls and slicing through stuff, and just like, oh, it's so good. But alas, yeah, I think
doesn't have cuts in between with the actual
talking,
fight as well of them.
But
circling around each other.
Didn't make it into the 2020 remake for Disney Plus. That would have been good. Spruce up the quality.
No, what were they thinking? Come on, guys.
Each other gently.
Don't put in more monsters around Tatooine where we have like 5 different shots of a speeder flying by with a womp rat sticking out of something, or a giant long neck dinosaur running around. Nah, let's have that. You know what? That's a whole lot better than some cool lightsaber fight scene. I don't know. I think the movie's fine on its own from what I remember, and then watching it this time around, it's like there's too many things added to this. But I think that fight scene
the job done.
with the
sabers
sabers
the dialogue.
Was good enough to the point where it's like, okay, like, yeah, it gets the job done. I agree. There's definitely a lot of emotion in there as well. You kind of get the feeling of, okay, these people knew each other, and they really want to see each other go down, but only one of them's coming out alive. And unfortunately, the one who comes out alive, because he's in the next 2 other. Well, I guess they both are in the next 2 other movies, but Darth Vader wins. No one's. Of course not. This is Star Wars. People just come back, except for the one portion of time that people should come back and they don't. Not gonna talk about that this episode, but anyways, they escape. We have Obi-Wan saying "Run, Forrest, run!" basically to Luke Forrest, as they get on the ship, which I thought was pretty funny. It was "Run, Luke, run, run, Forrest." And then we get probably one of my favorite scenes in this movie is the Falcon tower defense, basically, or you have the TIE fighter attack on the Falcon.
Yeah.
And you got Han Solo on the top.
Great kid, don't get caught.
Yeah, Han Solo on the top and Luke on the bottom.
That's Han.
And makes you really want to be there. I think that's what they tried to capture at the theme park in California. But from what I've heard, it doesn't really capture that same feeling that at least this movie conveys with shooting down TIE fighters and yelling to your buddy.
I think that's kind of the moment where the characters Han Solo and Luke Skywalker kind of become friends. If you look at up until that point, Han was kind of just viewing Luke as this passenger and possible competition with the princess. But I think after that, they're more buddies than anything. Just kind of fun to watch.
Definitely. No, there's even the line when they get to Yavin 4. He's like, hey, do you want to come with us? Yep. Like, we got to drop this off, but then we got other jobs that we could do. Luke's like, nah, I'm going to stay here. Sorry, Han. Why don't you stay?
It's very vague. It's like just.
No,
call
I'm not
upon,
staying. I got
transfer
debts.
the money. Like, what is this? Are we in the 1970s or something? Oh yeah, we are.
They have physical credits. Come on, Nick. They have to take all these crates of credits, the 17,000 credits plus from
True
Ben, and then also from
True
Leia as well.
Yeah,
They gotta get back there.
Well, I think that then brings us to the kind of longest, most unnecessary part of the entire movie, which I get is all hype for the main battle, but we have like a literal 2.5 minute prep scene where all of the TIE fighters getting started up. You just hear all these like jet engines winding up. It's like and you're just like, okay, we get it. We're starting up. Let's go. It's just like
Come on, take off. Are we there? Are we in Anaheim
more shots
yet?
of all the guys getting their helmets passed on and then closing the canopies. And you're just like, okay, I'm still waiting. Oh, R2's coming down. And I'm just like, okay, I'm ready.
I do find it funny
yeah.
that they even mention the guy's like, are you sure you can fly this thing? And then Luke's
like,
friend, I think Biggs, is just like, oh yeah, he's the best Bush
good
pilot
enough. No
out there.
special training
and
required.
The commander
to
just like,
handle
good
Bush
enough.
pilot to military jet aircraft equivalent fighter pilot. Like, yeah, no difference there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have you flown a military vehicle?
Exactly. Have you flown an F-35 before?
Flown a Cessna or something.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I think. No, actually, I just flew a Cessna. Those are basically the same thing, though, right? Oh yeah. Here you go. Good luck turning it on.
You'll be fine. All right, have fun.
Yeah.
Good luck.
R2.
And then I think he's the first one up,
well,
right?
R2 was there.
Or at least they
it's
show
kinda
his
funny
thing
to
taking
watch
off.
how the R2 units can do like basically anything.
Just thought that was
right, and so they're sitting there. R2 probably was actually just flying the entire thing. Maybe it was all just R2. Maybe Luke was just. Yeah, no. Luke was thinking he was doing.
Luke was
something,
trying to twist
and
things
R2
or
was
whatever,
like,
and it's actually just R2 being
Maybe
like,
R2
oh, yeah, you're
is
piloting.
the secret mastermind behind the entire Star Wars cinematic universe, and it's really just R2 pulling the strings as he's flying everybody's ships. Gotta think big brain. Totally. I mean, R2 is the
he's
reason
got
why
years of
Anakin
experience at this
Skywalker
point, right?
shot down the Droid Federation ship way back in the day, so... Same thing. It's totally same thing.
Same thing, right?
Gosh.
Death Star, right? Just dodge all the very similar looking tower gun things.
In
and
my
then
support,
the,
Luke
TIE fighters,
did try
and
spinning,
all you have to
and
do
as
is
we
just
know,
hit the
spinning is a
button.
good trick.
It is a good trick.
It did not.
You're not wrong there. But sadly, it didn't get him out of the fray.
Yes,
he still had to
Vader
worry about Vader on his
tells
tail.
his officers. The officer says, "Sir, they're avoiding our turbo lasers." That's all right. We'll destroy them ship to ship. Get the squadron, or whatever he said. Something ship to ship. And you're just like, ooh, we're in it now. We're in it now. Climax
You're with
town. Woo woo.
Yeah, and you got the wonderful music, of course, as well. The dun 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 dun
Oh,
dun.
so perfect. Could not be better.
Oh, definitely captures the moment of just like excitement, action, and anticipation for like what's coming. Like, are they going to do it? Are they going to fire the photon torpedo into the womp rat-sized hole in this
2 meters,
spaceship?
6 feet. A womp rat? A rat that's 2 meters? Yikes! Could you imagine a 2-meter rat?
Okay, so I think the line is that it's that's no larger, or no, I've hit things smaller than that, like a womp rat. I think that's the line that Luke gives. Like, I've shot womp rats in Tatooine.
Okay.
Or something like that.
I know.
So I don't think womp rats are 2 meters long, but
like
if so,
womp cows. Look
that's
out.
really big, right? That's like almost 6 feet.
Womperoos. Womperoos.
Womp kangaroos.
Oh, so as the battle continues,
anyways, the battle commences.
Dying left
You get
and
the
right
wonderful shots
between the I'm hit. Yeah, poor Porkins. Poor Porkins.
Biggs
Hashtag
and
Porkins life
Porkins.
mattered. Come on. Porkins. He died.
Poor guy.
Porkins.
Can we get
Porkins
this trending?
Was the best. I like Porkins because I identify with him the most. You know, just like
and we get one.
I too could be a star pilot. You know, I'm not gonna be, but I could be one of the first to die too. So
could
there's
be
that.
an X-wing pilot.
Yeah. True.
Less stress
Then
on you, I guess.
Vader's specially modified X1 TIE fighter comes out. This little angled wings and the two TIE fighters right behind it. They come tearing towards Luke, and you're just like, oh boy, it's gonna get good. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't wait. And,
beautiful visual.
And he gives that one line. The Force is strong with this one. I can't do James Earl Jones, so I butchered that, but
I'm not even going to attempt it. James Earl Jones' voice is
I probably shouldn't have.
Too magnificent for me to even try to attempt to say anything.
That's not the line.
No, Luke, I am your father.
Yeah.
And then we get the other iconic line of, Luke, you switched off your targeting computer. What's wrong?
I'm just going to do this, man. And I love how everyone in the control room just like,
fine.
Okay. Continuing to work on their screens. You are our last hope.
Not like, Luke, turn it back on. Come on. Our new hope.
Ooh,
our new but last
very
hope.
Good. It's almost like that's the title. You figured out why they called it that.
I solved it after 50 years.
Now, obviously, special effects were different back then. They
on
couldn't
this
just
podcast right here, ladies and
digital
gentlemen.
assets. But I thought it was a little funny that the Battle of Scarif, when they deployed the TIE fighters, it was just like two waves of like cartoon bumblebees coming out of a hive, and it's just like hundreds of TIE fighters. And that was just for the base at Scarif, but then for the Death Star, they sent out like, I don't know, 25 TIE fighters. It's just like, yeah, that's good.
It seemed like 25 or something like that. And they used the same repeating shot as well. Of course, like this movie was on a budget, a very small budget specifically. And so there's a lot of times in this battle where you see like the X-Wings coming into the trough twice. Like the same exact shot, same path and everything. This beautiful table-sized model of the surface of the Death Star. Looks fantastic, but you see it twice, you're like, oh, okay. Or the TIE fighters going, zoom, and then cut to the X-Wing.
You're like, wait, am I Neo in the Matrix? I saw a glitch.
Are they going to get there? Hold on, I think the tape on the VCR is broken again. Hold on, let me... let's take this out.
I think we're getting into the very tip-top of the climax. Vader's lined up for his shot. The music is crescendoing, and it's just all very bombastic, and you're getting into it. And you're like, how is Luke ever going to pull this one off? And in swoops Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon and distracts Vader just for a moment. Woo! Exactly. Woo! And that was just enough. And Luke obviously bullseyes the target. But then there was still... I love John Williams' score because there was the initial like release of the music as Han Solo distracts Vader, and like that threat has been averted, but there's still like this boom 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 where you're waiting to see if the proton torpedo hits the core, and it's like for like I don't know 4 bars or something. It's just like boom 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 boom, and then I love the very last cut of any scene that we see on the Death Star is Tarkin going like this, and it's like cut from Tarkin's face to just Death Star exploding. And you're like, Yep. Let rewind that about 30 minutes where Tarkin says, how in our moment of triumph, I think not.
Well, sorry, I totally hit the mic there. But yeah, definitely just so much arrogance and has just paid off in a terrible fashion for him, but a fantastic fashion for our heroes, where the Death Star is exploded, the heroes get out safe and alive somehow,
don't matter. If you know
except for Porkins and Biggs and a bunch of other people. Oh, we also forget R2 gets shot as well by, I think, Vader or a TIE fighter. Like, the biggest, like, not really, like, I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is the fact that it's like, oh,
it's all up to Luke.
R2 is hit. He can't help anymore. It's all up to Luke.
Oh, well,
which kind of puts a damper on our theory of
R2
piloting the whole time.
Us off the tracks. R2 is actually still perfectly functional inside.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense when they get back to base and then, like, Luke is celebrating and then they get R2 down and C-3PO's all worried about him.
Donate them.
And Luke's like, hey, he'll be fine.
Just like, ugh.
Luke's like, he'll be fine. Let's go. Exactly. Let's walk away. We're done. We're good. Let's celebrate. R2 will be okay.
And
then the wonderful medal ceremony where our heroes...
So much nostalgia.
And then all the troopers there. I realized there are so many rebels there that weren't in space helping out with the battle against the Death Star that was about to blow up everyone on the moon.
Originally, those were all just cardboard
just
cutouts
standing there.
Like in the original 1980s VHS tape, they're all just cardboard cutouts of people. They're not actually people, which is kind of weird. And obviously, they CG'd them later. And then 2, huge plot hole. Obviously, the Empire is aware their Death Star just got blown to smithereens. Obviously, they're aware that there are other fleets in the vicinity. Obviously, they're aware of where those people are. So, tell me why everyone found, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours to set up and stage this big, exciting party to award some people some medals and have literally everyone stand in one room. You're just like, gosh, that's a plot hole right there. Oh, Chewie.
And they didn't even make enough medals. Chewie doesn't even get a medal.
Alright, what about
he just sits there and growls like, hey.
I can't. Leia.
Yeah, Leia is such a jerk. Didn't even get another medal for the furry carpet that walks.
Well, that...
There's a lot of also old guys in the background as well, which I noted in my movie notes that I took during the viewing. It was like, there's a lot of old white men here.
This was in the 70s.
This resistance is very aged.
Give them a break. True. And then he calls up...
and then we also have Darth Vader tumbling into space Palpatine. As well.
Go for Papa Palpatine. Vader! Oh, Vader! How's my favorite Sith? If you haven't seen that episode of Robot Chicken, you're very confused. But if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's very funny. Oh, yes. Very fantastic.
Seth
I think that wraps the movie.
Man.
Actually, no, I need to mention here, because I'm probably going to mention in every other Star Wars movie that we talk about, I love the end credits of every Star Wars film. I just love how the music always just perfectly flows directly into the main... When you see that George Lucas in blue letters, and you're just like, oh, because they are.
I was gonna say those blue layers are very beautiful against the black background of space. Just very tranquil, very spacey, very sci-fi. Gives you a sense of, yes, I will watch these credits.
I'm always the person. All of the Star Wars that have been in theaters, like.
But the credits.
With Marvel, more people will stay and like watch till the end because the end credit scenes. But with Star Wars, I was always the one sitting there. Everyone else was gone. I'm just sitting there basking in the music, just getting goosebumps, and I'm just sitting there like, that was a good movie. So I experienced that yet again. Very good job, George Lucas. Very good job.
Yeah.
6 out of 8 because it did not age well.
But only a 6 out of 8 from you.
And I'm looking at all of the plot holes. B. There's the special effects is obviously dated, and then when they tried to redo things in the 2000s, I'm just like, Oh gosh, that's worse. That's somehow worse. That's somehow worse than literally potatoes flying over a black screen.
Please stop now.
In the asteroid field. Yeah.
There's a bunch of other shots on Tatooine of like these weird white flying robots buzzing around in the background. I'm just like, why is this needed? Like, are the kids just tired of not listening to a conversation, so they just need to look at the background and see a robot flying around? Like, what's the meaning of this? I mean, I get it's for the fact that it's in space, but it doesn't really serve too much.
Very.
But yeah. Anyways, fantastic movie. I think it was still pretty good in my opinion. 7 out of 8 for me. I loved it. Darth Vader is, I think, my favorite character in the whole entire Star Wars saga. So seeing him at his height, kind of, in this definitely kind of gives I don't know. It reminds me of what Darth Vader started as, and then what he's morphed into over time, in which we probably will cover.
I think it would be fair to say we will talk
saga
about
of Anakin Skywalker.
At least once. Well, cool. Any closing thoughts there?
At least once.
Go ahead. I think we did just
any
say
final
the same
thoughts,
thing. We
Nick?
said it at exactly the same time. Yes.
Did we just say the same thing?
Lots of final thoughts here. Star Wars is amazing.
Any
George
final
Lucas,
thoughts?
Please come on our show. We love you. Also, anyone from Pixar, please come on our show. We love you too. That's it. Especially John Lasseter.
That'd be nice. I'd love to talk to you guys at Pixar.
Yes, in nervousness.
As he ruffles his buttoned shirt for the
I think
listeners.
I'll go ahead and close this out here. Thanks so much for joining us on this second official episode of our regular Tailosive Movie Reviews podcast. Join us next week as we will be reviewing another movie. Let's just go ahead and announce it and tease it out a little bit because we have it all planned. It will be Pixar's Toy Story 2! We're going back to Pixar. Aww, thank you, man. You
have a friend in me,
Nick. Alright, we should stop it before I break into song and bleed everyone's ears out. See you guys. Bye.
You got a friend in me when things get tough. And I got him too.